Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the English Talk community. I'm Julia, and as always, I'm really happy to have you here with me. Whether you're walking to work, getting some things done at home, or just relaxing with your headphones on, I want to thank you for choosing to spend this time with us. This is your space to grow in confidence, develop your English naturally, and feel supported every step of the way. Today, we're diving into a topic that's not just useful, it's essential for anyone planning to travel. English for travel situations. And I don't just mean understanding a few words here and there. I mean feeling ready, feeling confident, feeling like you can ask for what you need and understand what's going on around you, even in a place where everything feels new. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt nervous in an airport because you weren't sure how to ask for directions to your gate? Or maybe you've stood in line at a hotel reception desk, rehearsing the same sentence over and over in your head, worried that you'll get it wrong. Maybe you've looked at a restaurant menu and realized that you didn't know how to ask about one of the dishes. If that sounds familiar, don't worry, you're not alone, and you're definitely in the right place. In this episode, I want to help you feel more confident in situations like those. We're going to go over useful phrases that you can start using right away, simple expressions that work in many different countries and situations. And don't worry, we're going to keep everything clear and practical. No complicated grammar, no long explanations, just real English for real-life situations. Now I want you to take a moment and think about your own experiences. Maybe you've already traveled to another country and had to speak English in public. How did that go for you? Were there any moments that felt difficult? Or maybe you're planning a trip now, and just thinking about speaking English in a foreign city makes you feel a little anxious. That's completely normal. You're not the only one who feels that way. Sometimes people think they need perfect grammar or a large vocabulary to speak English well during a trip. But that's not true. What you need is clarity. You need short, direct phrases that are easy to remember and easy to say. And most importantly, you need the courage to speak, even if you're not sure you're doing it perfectly. People will appreciate that you're trying. And most of the time, that effort is enough to get the help or information you need. One thing I always say to my students is this: when you travel, don't aim to sound perfect. Aim to be understood. That small shift in mindset can make a big difference. If you focus on communication instead of perfection, you'll find it easier to speak. You'll feel more relaxed, and you'll notice that people respond to you in a friendlier, more helpful way. This episode is here to support that idea. I'm going to walk you through the most useful expressions for different travel situations, at the airport, at a hotel, in a taxi, or when asking for help on the street. And instead of just listing the phrases, I'll also share stories of people, like you, who have used them in real situations. These characters are fictional, but their experiences are based on real-life challenges that many language learners face when they travel. Why do I use stories? Because they help us connect emotionally. When you hear a story about someone from Barcelona arriving in London and trying to find their hotel, or someone from Vienna ordering food in New York for the first time, you not only learn useful phrases, you also learn how to deal with the feelings that come with speaking English in public. The hesitation, the excitement, the small victories, that's what makes language learning real. So, as you listen today, I want you to imagine yourself in these situations. Try to repeat some of the phrases out loud with me when I say them. Don't just listen, participate. Use this moment to practice. I know it can feel a little strange at first, especially if you're listening while other people are around, but that's okay. This is your time, and this is your journey. One more thing before we move on. I want you to stay curious throughout this episode. Ask yourself questions like, would I be able to say that if I needed to? Or, how would I react in that situation? This kind of reflection helps you turn passive listening into active learning, and that's how you really grow. Also, if something I say reminds you of a past experience, take a moment to think about it. Maybe write it down, maybe even send it to us. We love hearing your stories. And if you learn even just one phrase today that makes your next trip easier, then we've done something great together. So, get ready. We're going to explore English for travel in a way that's simple, useful, and practical. You don't need to take notes unless you want to. Just relax and follow along. I'll guide you through each situation step by step. And who knows, by the end of this episode, you might even feel excited about your next trip. Let's begin. When you travel to another country, everything around you changes. Your surroundings, the culture, the rhythm of life, and of course, the language. That change can be exciting, but it can also feel overwhelming. And this is where English comes in as one of the most powerful tools you can carry with you, no matter where you're going. Whether you're walking through a busy airport, checking in at a hotel desk, getting into a taxi, or ordering a meal at a restaurant, having the ability to communicate in English gives you a kind of freedom that's hard to describe until you've felt it. In so many parts of the world, English has become the common language between people of different nationalities. You might be from Istanbul, and the person helping you at the hotel might be from Paris. You both speak different native languages, but chances are you'll communicate in English. That's why English isn't just a classroom subject. It's a bridge. It helps you connect with people, solve problems, and feel more confident when you're away from home. Still, knowing that doesn't always take away the fear, does it? You might understand English well when you're listening to a podcast or watching a video at home, but the moment you're in a real situation, at a ticket counter for example, you might freeze. Your mind goes blank. The words disappear. You feel nervous even though you've studied. That feeling is more common than you think. And honestly, it's not because you don't know enough English. It's because real-life communication involves emotions. When you're in a new environment speaking to strangers, your brain reacts with stress. That's human. The good news is you can prepare for that. You can practice not just the words, but also the experience of using them. Let's think about the airport. It's often the first place where travelers face a language test. From the moment you arrive, there are signs, announcements, and people giving instructions. If you can ask, "Where is the check-in counter?" or understand when someone says your gate has changed, you're not just getting information. You're saving time, avoiding stress, and feeling more in control. That's what English can do for you in these moments. Now picture yourself arriving at your hotel. You walk up to the reception desk after a long flight. Maybe you're tired. Maybe your phone battery is low. And now you need to check in. You know the phrase, "I have a reservation," but your voice feels shaky. The person behind the desk says something quickly and you only catch half of it. What do? If you've practiced a few key responses like, "Can you repeat that please?" or "Can I check in now?" you give yourself space to breathe and respond, even in moments of pressure. That's what this kind of preparation is about. Being ready for the real world, not just the textbook. Restaurants are another common place where English becomes essential. You sit down, look at the menu, and the waiter comes over. Even a few simple phrases like, "Can I have the chicken, please?" or "What do you recommend?" can turn an awkward experience into a smooth one. You don't need to speak fast. You don't need a perfect accent. What matters is being understood. What matters is feeling like you can be part of the moment instead of feeling lost in it. And of course, there's public transportation. Taking a bus or a train in a foreign country can feel like an adventure or a nightmare, depending on how well you can ask questions or read instructions. A short phrase like, "Does this train stop at the city center?" can save you a lot of confusion. When you understand the signs or know how to ask someone for help, you move through the city more confidently. You enjoy more and worry less. But here's something I want you to really remember. Even people who have studied English for years can feel unsure when they travel. That includes people who speak it quite well. The problem isn't usually the language, it's the pressure. When you're tired or in a rush or feeling nervous, your brain reacts. And when that happens, it's easy to forget even the words you know. So, if that has ever happened to you, don't feel embarrassed. You're not alone. You're learning how to do something very real and very human, communicate with people in a second language, in an unpredictable world. That's why it's so important to practice not only vocabulary, but also situations. Think about what you'll probably need to say when you travel. Think about the questions people might ask you. Say your answers out loud. Get comfortable with them. You don't need to memorize long speeches. Focus on short, useful sentences. Repeat them often. That's how confidence is built. That's how you prepare not just your mind, but also your voice and your body for the experience of speaking English in real places. And one more thing. People want to help. In most places, if you're polite and you try, people will meet you halfway. You don't need to apologize for your English. You don't need to be perfect. What you need is to be clear and calm. And with time and a bit of practice, that becomes easier and easier. So the next time you imagine yourself at the airport, at a hotel, in a restaurant, or on a train, I want you to picture yourself speaking clearly, calmly, and with confidence. Because that's possible. That's something you can build. And it starts with small daily steps. Let me tell you a story about Elena. She's from Barcelona, and last year she took her very first solo trip to London. She had dreamed about visiting the city for years. She loved British films, had read books set in London, and finally she booked her flight and made all the arrangements. Elena had studied English in school, and she could understand most things when watching shows or listening to music, but she had never really needed to speak English in real life before. So even though she was excited, she also felt nervous. Her flight went smoothly. She arrived at Heathrow Airport, passed through immigration with no problems, and followed the signs to the Underground, the London Tube. She had planned to take the Piccadilly line to get to her hotel, which was in the area of King's Cross. She had written everything down, step by step, and even practiced saying the name of her hotel and the sentence, "I need to get to King's Cross, please," before she left home. But, as it happens to many travelers, something unexpected happened. A few stations after she got on the train, there was an announcement. The driver said something about a delay and a service change, and everyone started getting off at the next station. Elena didn't understand the full announcement. It was fast, and the speaker wasn't very clear. She got off the train with the others and stood on the platform, unsure of what to do next. She looked around. Signs pointed in different directions, with names of lines and stations she didn't recognize. People walked quickly, and some even seemed confused. Elena felt her heart beating faster. She thought, "What now?" Her first instinct was to check her phone, but there was no signal underground. That's when she realized she would need to ask someone for help. At first, she hesitated. She looked at a man nearby, then looked away. She felt embarrassed. What if I say it wrong? She thought. But then she remembered what she had practiced. She took a deep breath and walked up to a woman who looked like she lived in London. With a smile, Elena said, "Excuse me, I need to go to King's Cross. Can you help me?" The woman smiled back and nodded. She said, "Sure. You need to take the Victoria line from here. Just go up the stairs and turn left." Elena didn't understand everything, but she heard the key words. Victoria line, stairs, turn left. She repeated, "Victoria line, upstairs, left." The woman confirmed with a kind smile. Yes, that's it. That short conversation gave Elena a huge boost of confidence. She followed the directions, found the platform, and got on the right train. When she finally arrived at King's Cross, she felt so proud of herself. It wasn't just that she had made it to her destination. It was that she had spoken in English clearly and been understood. That small success stayed with her the entire trip. Later, Elena told me that what helped her most was having a few simple expressions ready. She didn't try to be perfect. She didn't search for fancy words. She just used what she knew. Phrases like, "Excuse me?" "Can you help me?" "I need to go to," and "Is this the right train?" were enough. They worked. They made a difference. Her story is such a great example of how powerful simple English can be, especially in situations where you feel nervous or unsure. You don't need to speak like a native speaker. You don't need a long sentence or perfect grammar. What you need is a clear, polite way to ask for help and to understand the answers. That's what basic expressions give you. They are like tools in your pocket, always ready when you need them. I always encourage learners to practice those kinds of phrases out loud, often, and in different ways. Say them slowly, then faster. Use them in questions, then in answers. Try them with a smile. Try them when you're walking around your house or riding the bus. It doesn't matter if no one is around. You're training your mouth and your mind to get used to the rhythm of real English. And when the moment comes, like it did for Elena, those phrases will come to you more naturally. Also, remember what Elena did when she didn't understand everything. She didn't panic. She picked out the important words, repeated them, and checked to make sure she understood. That's something anyone can do. You don't need to catch every single word. Just listen for the important ones. And if you're not sure, repeat what you heard as a question. That's a very natural and polite way to confirm information, and people will usually respond kindly when you do that. Elena's trip went on to be a great success. She visited museums, walked through beautiful parks, took pictures at famous landmarks, and even made a few new friends at a coffee shop. All of it became possible because she didn't let fear stop her. She kept things simple and focused on being understood, not perfect. If you've ever felt like Elena, nervous about speaking up, unsure if people will understand you, I want you to remember her story. Let it remind you that you don't need complicated language to travel successfully. You need clear phrases, a calm voice, and a bit of courage to take the first step. And, just like her, you might find that your biggest moment of growth doesn't happen when everything goes according to plan, but when things go a little wrong, and you discover that you can handle it anyway. When you arrive at the airport, especially in a country where English is the main language, the first thing you'll notice is how busy and fast everything feels. People walking quickly, announcements on the loudspeaker, long lines, and signs everywhere. It can be overwhelming, even for experienced travelers. That's why knowing a few essential phrases in English can make a huge difference. It helps you move through the airport more confidently and feel more in control, even if you're feeling nervous inside. Let's start with one of the most important areas at the airport, the check-in counter. This is where you give your passport, drop off your luggage, and receive your boarding pass. A helpful phrase to remember here is, "Where is the check-in counter?" You can use this if you're not sure where to go when you arrive. Just say it clearly to an airport employee or someone near an information desk. They will probably point or guide you to the right place. Once you reach the counter, you might hear a question like, "Can I see your passport, please?" Or, "Do you have any luggage to check?" These are very standard questions. When you hear, "Can I see your passport, please?" you simply hand it to them. It's polite to say, "Here you go," or "Of course." Practicing short responses like this can help you feel calm during the interaction. Another important part of the airport experience is security. It's normal to feel nervous here, but knowing what to expect helps. You might hear a security officer say, "Please take off your shoes," or "Put your laptop in the tray." These instructions are usually short and spoken in a clear voice. If you don't understand something, it's perfectly okay to ask, "Can you repeat that, please?" Or, "Sorry, I didn't catch that." Most airport staff are used to helping international travelers, and they'll slow down if they see you need help. After security, you'll want to find your gate. A good phrase to use is, "What time is boarding?" This helps you know when you should go to your gate and be ready to get on the plane. Another helpful sentence is, "Which gate is for flight number?" followed by your flight number. For example, "Which gate is for flight number BA475? You can ask this at an information desk or even someone working at a shop inside the airport. Most people are happy to help if you ask politely. Let's go over a few more useful phrases you might hear or need to say while at the airport. One is, "Do I need to fill out any forms?" Sometimes you need to complete a customs form or arrival card. If you're unsure, asking this question can save time and confusion later. Another useful one is this the line for economy class? Or is this the line for business class? This can help you find the right queue. You might also hear some other common questions like, "Did you pack your bags yourself?" Or, "Are you carrying any liquids or electronics?" These are security-related questions. A simple yes or no is usually enough, but it's good to practice hearing and understanding them so you don't feel surprised when asked. Now let's talk about one of the most stressful parts of any trip: delays and cancellations. If your flight is delayed, you might hear an announcement like, "Flight 204 to New York is delayed due to weather conditions." Or you might see it on the screen. If you want to confirm what's happening, you can go to the airline's desk and ask, "Is the flight delayed?" Or, "When will we board?" Staying calm is key here. I always say it's not about knowing every word. It's about recognizing the important ones like delayed, boarding, gate, or canceled. And sometimes, things happen. Maybe your luggage doesn't arrive. That's a situation no traveler wants, but it's not the end of the world. You can go to the lost luggage desk and say, "My bag didn't arrive. What should I do?" Or, "I think my luggage is lost." Again, stay calm and use short, clear sentences. The goal is not perfection. The goal is communication. Let's also not forget the announcements. In airports, announcements are often made quickly and in a noisy environment. You might hear things like, "Final boarding call for Flight 302 to Dublin. Please proceed to Gate 18 immediately." It helps to listen for keywords like your flight number, city, and gate number. That way, even if the sentence is long or fast, you can understand the main idea. And of course, once you're at the gate, a staff member may ask, "Can I see your boarding pass and passport?" Again, keep your documents ready and respond with a simple, "Here they are," or "Sure." A small smile and a confident voice can make the moment feel easier. Now, I want to talk for a moment about staying calm. Airports are busy places, and it's easy to feel nervous, especially if you're trying to speak English in a real situation. If you find yourself getting anxious, take a deep breath. Focus on the words you do know. You don't have to speak fast. You don't need to say a lot. Just use one good sentence at a time. Here's a small tip I like to give. Before you travel, write down 5 to 10 phrases you think you'll need. Practice them out loud. Say them in the mirror. For example, "Excuse me, where is gate 7?" Or, "Is this the line for flight 342?" Say these often, even when you're at home. This kind of repetition makes your brain more comfortable, and when the time comes, the words will come more easily. Another small but powerful technique is visualization. Imagine yourself at the airport, checking in, asking for help, finding your gate, all while speaking English. This mental practice, combined with real phrase practice, creates a strong foundation. And the more you use these phrases, the more confident you'll feel, not just in the airport, but in any part of your trip. You're not alone in feeling stressed at the airport. So many people do, including native speakers. But what helps everyone, no matter their level of English, is preparation and simple, direct communication. That's what these phrases give you. They're like small tools that help you stay calm and stay focused on what matters most, enjoying your journey. Let me tell you a story about someone I think many of you will relate to. His name is Luca. He's from Rome, Italy, and he was traveling to Dublin for a weekend trip to explore the city and visit a friend who had recently moved there. Luca had been practicing English for a few months using online videos and listening to podcasts like this one, but he still didn't feel very confident when speaking. He could understand a lot, especially when reading or listening slowly but speaking under pressure. That made him nervous. Everything was planned. His bags were packed, passport ready, and the flight was scheduled to leave at 9:45 in the morning. But that morning, something went wrong. The taxi he had booked didn't arrive on time, and the next one he found was stuck in traffic on the way to the airport. By the time Luca arrived at Dublin Airport, it was already 9:20. His heart was racing. He rushed inside, hoping he could still make it to the gate. But when he got to the check-in counter, the staff told him the flight had closed. Now imagine being in that moment. You're in a different country, you're late for your flight, and you have to speak a language that's not your own. Luca could have panicked. But instead, he took a deep breath and remembered one simple thing. Clarity is more important than perfection. He didn't try to speak fast or use complicated grammar. He focused on short, clear sentences. He approached the airline help desk and said calmly, "Hello, I missed my flight." The woman behind the desk looked at him kindly and asked, "What's your destination?" Luca answered, "Rome. My flight was at 9:45. She typed on her computer for a few moments, then told him that the flight had already taken off, but she could help him find another one. Luca stayed calm and asked, "Can I book a new flight today?" Just that, simple and direct. While they were checking for the next available flight, Luca also asked, "Is there an extra fee? And what time is the next flight?" These questions might seem small, but they're very effective. They show that you're ready to cooperate and you want to solve the problem. Even though Luca made a few small grammar mistakes, nobody cared. He was communicating, and that's what really matters. The woman found another flight for later that afternoon. Luca smiled and said, "Thank you very much." He paid the fee, got his new boarding pass, and sat down to wait. He felt tired, but also proud. Because even though the situation was stressful, he had managed it all by using the English he knew, just simple, clear phrases. Luca told me later that he used to think his English had to be perfect before he could use it in real life. He thought people would laugh or not understand him if he made mistakes. But this experience changed his mind. He realized that communication isn't about saying everything perfectly, it's about being understood. And often, when you speak slowly and clearly, people will understand you, even if your sentence isn't perfect. He shared something that I think is really valuable. He said, "I used to be afraid of talking to strangers in English, but after the airport, I understood that using short sentences helped me more than trying to sound fluent." That's such a powerful lesson. It's okay to pause. It's okay to think before you speak. And it's okay to use just the words you know. Let's take a moment and think about the phrases Luca used. "Hello, I missed my flight." So simple, right? But powerful. Then, "Can I book a new flight today? And is there an extra fee?" These are the kinds of questions that help you take control of the situation. You don't need to explain everything that happened. You just need to say what you need. Another important part of Luca's story is his attitude. He stayed calm. He didn't apologize 100 times. He didn't panic or try to speak too fast. He focused on one sentence at a time, and every sentence moved the situation forward. That's what I want you to remember. I know that for many of you, airports are places where you feel a lot of pressure. There's a schedule to follow, announcements that are hard to hear, and so many people moving quickly. But when something goes wrong, like missing a flight, you have a choice. You can let the fear take over, or you can pause and focus on using just a few useful English phrases to get help. It's not about impressing anyone, it's about solving a problem. Luca also shared that before his trip, he had written down 10 phrases he thought he might need. He kept them in his phone. That helped him a lot, because in that stressful moment, he didn't have to think too hard. He just used the phrases he had practiced. That's something you can do too. Make a short list of key phrases and practice saying them out loud, slowly, with confidence. Another thing that helped Luca was smiling. He said that when he smiled and made eye contact with the airline staff, they were much more willing to help. People respond well to kindness and patience. Even if your English is basic, your attitude can make a big difference. It shows that you're trying, and most people respect that. In the end, Luca got home to Rome safely. His story is a great example of how simple English, spoken clearly and with confidence, can help you manage real-life situations. Even when something unexpected happens, like missing a flight, you can still find a solution if you stay calm and speak clearly. This story also reminds us that language is a tool. You don't need every tool in the toolbox to fix something. Sometimes just a few simple tools are enough. It's the same with English. A few clear phrases, spoken slowly and confidently, can take you far. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Let's talk about something that happens on almost every trip: staying at a hotel. Whether you're traveling for work, visiting friends, or just taking a few days to relax. At some point, you'll need to check into a hotel, speak to the staff, and maybe ask for a few things to make your stay more comfortable. This can be a great opportunity to practice your English in real life, because hotel staff are usually used to helping international guests. Still, for many people, these small interactions can feel stressful, especially if you're afraid of making a mistake. That's why I want to help you feel more confident with a few simple, practical expressions that are perfect for hotel situations. Let's start with one of the most common phrases. I have a reservation. This is probably the first sentence you'll say when you arrive at the hotel. It's short, clear, and very effective. You don't need to add many details right away. Just say, "Hi, I have a reservation." If the staff needs more information, they'll ask. Usually they'll say, "What's your name?" or "Can I see your passport?" These are simple questions you can prepare for, and if you speak slowly and clearly, you'll be fine. Sometimes you might need to confirm your booking. You can say, "I booked a room for 2 nights," or "I reserved a room under the name Maria Silva." If you arrive early, you can ask, "Is early check-in available?" or "Can I leave my luggage here until check-in?" These are all practical, polite questions that will help you start your stay smoothly. Now let's imagine that you're in your room, and everything is fine, but you need an extra towel, or maybe an extra pillow. This is very common. You don't need to overthink the grammar. Just pick a short and polite sentence. You can say, "Can I have an extra towel?" or "Could I get an extra blanket, please?" These phrases are friendly, respectful, and easy to understand. You don't need to say why you need it. Just ask with a calm tone and a smile, and usually hotel staff will be happy to help. Sometimes you might want to ask about breakfast. Most hotels include this information when you check in, but if you're not sure, it's okay to ask, "What time is breakfast?" or "Is breakfast included?" These are very common questions. You can also ask, "Where is the breakfast room?" or "Do you serve breakfast here?" These questions are simple, and again, you don't need perfect grammar. What matters is that the person understands you. Let's look at a few other helpful questions. If you want to know how to connect to the internet, you can ask, "What's the Wi-Fi password?" or "How do I connect to the internet?" These are useful questions in any country. If the password is hard to understand when the staff says it, you can ask them to write it down by saying, "Can you write it down, please?" That's another great phrase to remember. Now imagine you want to go out and explore the area, but you're not sure where to go. You can ask the hotel staff, "Can you recommend a good restaurant nearby?" or "Is there a supermarket close to the hotel?" These are great ways to get information and also practice your English in a very natural way. You're asking questions that make sense in the moment, and you're learning as you go. If you need a taxi, the front desk is often happy to help. You can say, "Can you call a taxi for me?" Or, how long does it take to get to the airport by taxi? Again, these phrases are simple and clear. You don't need long, complex sentences. Just be direct and polite. That's the combination that works best. Some hotels offer additional services, and you might want to ask about those too. For example, is there a laundry service? Or, do you have a gym? Or, can I book a massage? These are things you might want to ask about if you're staying more than a few days. Just keep your questions short and use words you're comfortable with. That way, you don't feel nervous and the conversation stays easy. Now let's talk about checking out. When you're ready to leave, you can say, "I'd like to check out, please." If you want to pay at that moment, you can say, "Can I pay now?" Or, "Do you accept credit cards?" If you're in a hurry, you can ask, "How long does checkout take?" These phrases are useful when you're getting ready to leave, and they help the process go smoothly. Some people worry that they will forget the right words in the moment, but here's something important to remember. You don't need to memorize long sentences. Just learn a few key phrases and say them with confidence. If you forget something, it's okay. You can always use gestures or ask for help. For example, if you want to ask for a hairdryer and don't remember the word, you can say, "Do you have this?" and point or describe it. People usually understand when you're trying. The most powerful tool you have is your smile. A friendly attitude and a clear voice can make a big difference. Even if your grammar isn't perfect, people will usually understand you if you speak slowly, look them in the eye, and use short, polite phrases. And remember, hotel staff meet people from all over the world every day. They're used to different accents, different levels of English, and different ways of speaking. They don't expect you to speak perfectly. One listener once told me a story about her trip to Amsterdam. She was staying in a small hotel and needed help finding the elevator. She couldn't remember the word elevator, so she asked, "Where go up?" and pointed to the stairs. The receptionist smiled and said, "Oh, the elevator is over there." Even though her sentence wasn't perfect, it worked. She was understood. And in the end, that's what matters. These kinds of real moments help you build confidence. Each time you use English in a hotel, you're practicing. You're training your brain to think in English, to use what you know, and to stay calm under pressure. You're learning how to communicate clearly, which is more important than using big words. So whenever you stay at a hotel, think of it as a practice space. You don't need a classroom. You just need a few good phrases, a bit of courage, and a smile. The more you use English in real situations, the more natural it becomes. You'll start to feel less afraid and more in control. And little by little, you'll grow. That's the beauty of learning a language through real life. Let me tell you a story about Anna. She's from Vienna, Austria, and last year she traveled to New York City for the first time. She was excited about her trip because it was a dream she'd had since she was a teenager. She had saved for months, planned everything carefully, and finally arrived in the city full of energy and curiosity. Her hotel was in Manhattan, not far from Central Park. She had chosen it for its location and good reviews, and everything seemed perfect at first. But on her first night, after walking around the city all day and returning to her room to rest, Anna realized that something wasn't right. The room was warm and the air felt heavy. She checked the air conditioning unit on the wall, pressed a few buttons, but nothing changed. The air conditioner wasn't working. At first, she thought maybe it just needed a moment to start, but after a few minutes, it was clear that it wasn't going to turn on. Anna started to feel nervous. She was tired, she didn't want to move rooms, and she didn't feel confident about speaking English in a stressful moment. But she also knew she had to do something. Sleeping in a hot room would make her uncomfortable and maybe ruin the rest of her trip. She sat on the bed and took a deep breath. Then she thought, "Okay, I need to keep it simple." She went to the front desk and spoke to the receptionist. She didn't use long sentences. She didn't worry about using perfect grammar. She simply said, "Excuse me, the air conditioner in my room is not working." The receptionist understood immediately and asked, "Which room are you in?" Anna replied, "Room 503. The receptionist checked the system and said, "I'll send someone to fix it now." In less than 10 minutes, a technician arrived at her room, checked the air conditioner, and repaired it. Later, Anna told me that the experience gave her a big confidence boost. She didn't panic, she didn't freeze, and she didn't try to use difficult words. She used a clear and simple sentence. And it worked. That's the lesson I want to share with you. You don't need to speak perfect English to solve problems when you travel. You just need to speak clearly and directly. Let's look at what Anna said. "Excuse me, The air conditioner in my room is not working. This sentence is great because it's short, polite, and easy to understand. The phrase "excuse me" is a friendly way to start almost any request. Then she describes the problem clearly. The air conditioner in my room is not working. You can change this sentence to match your own situation. For example, the shower in my room is not working, or the lights in my room are not working. If you want to be even more direct, you can say, the air conditioner is broken, or there is a problem with the air conditioner. These are simple and natural ways to express that something isn't right. You don't need to explain everything or give a long story. Just describe the problem and wait for the person to respond. Let me give you some other examples. If the TV doesn't work, you can say the TV in my room is not working, or the remote control doesn't work. If there's no hot water in the shower, you can say there's no hot water in my room, or I can't get hot water in the shower. If something is missing, like a towel or a pillow, you can say, there's no towel in my room, or can I get a pillow, please? You can also ask questions to check if something is normal. For example, is the air conditioner supposed to make noise? Or is it normal that the lights turn off by themselves? These questions show that you're not angry, you're just asking for help. And that makes people more willing to assist you. The key is to stay calm and use the English you already know. You don't need to worry about sounding perfect. What matters is being understood. And people are usually kind when they see that you're trying your best. A calm voice, a polite attitude, and a simple sentence are usually all you need. Another good phrase you can use is, can someone check it, please? Or can you send someone to my room? These are helpful when something needs to be fixed. You can say, can someone check the air conditioner, please? Or can you send someone to fix the shower? These sentences are useful in many situations and easy to remember. If you don't feel comfortable going to the front desk in person, you can also call from your room phone. Just say, hello, this is room 503. The air conditioner is not working. This sentence tells them who you are and what the problem is. It's fast and clear. And again, it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be understandable. Anna's experience is a good example of how a small problem can turn into a great learning moment. She was nervous at first, but after solving the issue with English, she felt more confident for the rest of her trip. She told me that she used English many times after that to order food, ask for directions, and even talk to other travelers in the hotel lobby. That one simple success helped her believe in her ability to communicate. That's something I want you to think about. Every time you solve a small problem using English, you grow a little more. You become more independent. You learn to trust your voice, your words, and your ability to make yourself understood. You don't need to wait for a perfect situation. You can start with the little things. A broken air conditioner, a missing towel, a question about Wi-Fi. These are all real opportunities to practice and grow. So next time you're in a hotel and something isn't right, remember Anna. Take a breath, think of a simple sentence, and speak with confidence. You might be surprised by how easy it is to be understood when you focus on clarity, not perfection. Let's talk about something very important when you travel: food. Eating in a new country can be one of the best parts of your trip, but if you're not confident speaking English, it can also feel stressful. Maybe you look at the menu and feel unsure. Maybe you want to ask a question, but you're afraid of saying something wrong. If that sounds familiar, you're definitely not alone. Many learners feel nervous about ordering food in English, especially in a busy restaurant or when they're really hungry. But the good news is, you don't need to speak perfectly. You just need to use simple and clear phrases. Let's begin with something basic. When you arrive at a restaurant and take a seat, one of the first things you'll want to say is, "Can I see the menu?" This is a polite and common way to ask for the list of food and drinks. If you are already holding the menu but want to know more, like what the waiter recommends, you can ask, "What do you recommend?" or "What's popular here?" These are great ways to get suggestions, especially if you don't recognize the names of the dishes. Now, when you're ready to order, you don't need a long sentence. You can simply say, "I'd like the chicken, please," or "I'll have the pasta." These are natural and polite ways to ask for your food. You can also say, "Can I have the fish, please?" or "I want the soup." Just be sure to smile and use a soft tone. Even if your sentence isn't perfect, people will understand you. Let me give you an example. Imagine you are in a restaurant in London. You sit down and a server comes over. You can say, "Hi, can I see the menu?" The server brings it to you. After looking for a minute or two, you decide to order something simple. You can say, "I'd like the grilled chicken, please, and a glass of water." That's it. You've just placed your order in clear and natural English. Sometimes you may want to ask about ingredients, especially if you have allergies or dietary needs. A simple way to do this is to ask, "Does this have nuts?" or "Is this vegetarian?" You don't need to make the question complicated. Short and direct questions like these are very effective. If you're unsure about a word on the menu, you can also ask, "What is this?" while pointing to the item. It's okay not to understand everything. Asking questions shows that you are curious and careful. Another helpful phrase is, "Can I have this without onions?" or "No cheese, please." This is useful when you want to change something in the dish. Many travelers feel nervous about requesting changes, but restaurants hear these kinds of requests all the time. As long as you are polite, it's completely normal. Now, let's talk about observing others. One of the best tips I can give you is to watch what people around you are doing. This is especially helpful if you're not sure what to do next. For example, in some countries, you need to go to the counter to order. In others, someone will come to your table. By watching other customers, you can understand the system without needing to ask too many questions. If you see someone raise their hand to get the bill, you can do the same. If people pay at the table, you'll know not to get up and go to the counter. This is something I recommend often because it builds your confidence in real situations. You don't always need to speak first. You can learn a lot just by paying attention to how others interact in the same space. It's a great strategy if you're shy or still building your speaking skills. Now, when you finish eating and you're ready to leave, the phrase you need is, "Can I have the bill, please?" In some countries, they say check instead of bill, but both are correct and understood. You can also just say, "The bill, please," and the server will understand. If you want to split the bill with a friend, you can say, "Can we split the bill?" or "Can we pay separately?" These phrases are very useful when you're traveling with someone. Let me tell you about a small conversation I heard between a traveler and a waiter in Dublin. The traveler was from Helsinki and spoke with a Finnish accent. He said, "I want the fish and chips." The waiter smiled and replied, "Sure, fish and chips. Anything to drink?" The traveler paused and said, "A beer, please." That was it. The entire exchange lasted about 15 seconds. It wasn't perfect English. It didn't need to be. It was clear, friendly, and easy to understand. That's something I want you to remember. Ordering food is not a test. You're not being judged on grammar or vocabulary. People just want to understand what you need. If you keep your words simple and your tone kind, everything becomes easier. Another useful phrase when you don't know what something means is, "How do you say this?" or "What's this called?" Maybe you point to a dish on the menu or to something someone else is eating. It's a great way to learn a new word while also communicating your interest. If you're at a cafe or a casual place and you want to order coffee or a snack, just say, "Can I get a coffee, please?" or "One sandwich, please." These phrases work almost anywhere. If they ask you questions in return, like "For here" or "To go," you can simply answer "To go" or "For here." And again, just watching how others do it helps a lot. A final phrase that's always good to remember is, "Thank you." When you finish your meal, saying, "Thank you, it was great," or "Thank you, everything was delicious," makes a good impression. It also helps you build positive interactions in English, which boosts your confidence. So next time you're at a restaurant, cafe, or even a street food stand, try to use one or two of these simple phrases. Start small, speak slowly, and don't worry about making mistakes. Focus on being clear. And remember, observing others can guide you when you're unsure what to do. Little by little, you'll find that these everyday situations become easier. You'll feel more relaxed and more confident using your English in real life. Let me share a story with you about a man named Marek. He's from Warsaw, the capital of Poland, and this was his very first time visiting the United States. He had been dreaming of this trip for years. When he finally landed in Los Angeles, he was excited but also a little nervous. His English was decent. He had studied it in school, listened to podcasts, and even watched a few American TV shows. But speaking, that was different. He had never really used English in real conversations before. One afternoon, walking along Venice Beach, Marek saw a long line in front of a food truck. It smelled amazing. There was grilled meat, spices, and something crispy being fried. He looked at the colorful sign above the window but couldn't understand every word. Still, he was curious. He was hungry. And he really wanted to try some local food. So he got in line even though his heart was beating a little faster than usual. As he waited, he thought about what to say. He didn't want to look confused. He didn't want to mess up. But he also reminded himself of something important. People are usually kind, especially when you speak with a smile. That thought gave him the courage to stay in line. When it was finally his turn, the woman at the window smiled and said, "Hi there, what can I get for you?" Marek hesitated for just a second. Then he smiled back and said, "Hello, I want one taco, with chicken, please." His accent was strong, and he knew it. His rhythm was slower than hers. But he was calm and polite. The woman nodded and replied, "One chicken taco, got it. Anything to drink?" Marek smiled again. "Water, please," he said. She gave him a thumbs up and told him the price. He paid, waited for a moment, and then received his food. As he took the first bite, he felt proud. Not just because the taco was delicious, but because he had spoken English in a real situation, and it worked. He was understood. He didn't use big words. He didn't speak fast, but he spoke clearly and confidently. That's what I want to focus on with you. Marek's story is simple but powerful. It shows that you don't need perfect grammar, a native accent, or advanced vocabulary to communicate effectively. What you really need is the courage to speak and the patience to practice. When Marek ordered his food, he didn't try to impress anyone. He focused on being clear. That made all the difference. Many people worry about their accent. Maybe you do too. You think, what if they don't understand me? Or what if I say something wrong? But the truth is, accents are normal. Everyone has an accent when they speak a new language. It's a sign of learning, not a problem. Marek had a strong Polish accent, but he was still able to get what he needed. He was polite, used short sentences, and kept things simple. You can do the same. Let's look again at what he said. "I want one taco with chicken, please." That's it. Just 10 words. But those 10 words were enough. You don't need to say, "Could I possibly have a chicken taco if that's all right with you?" That kind of sentence is beautiful, but not necessary in everyday travel situations. If you're learning, it's much better to master a few clear sentences than to try and sound advanced too early. Think about how you might use this. Imagine you're in a new city, maybe Toronto or Cape Town, and you see a small food stand. What would you say? Try practicing it now in your mind or even out loud. Say something like, "I'd like one sandwich, please." Or, "Can I have a burger and a Coke?" These are the kind of phrases that work in any country where English is spoken. Also notice how Marek smiled during his conversation. That's another key point. Your body language and tone of voice are part of communication. A smile tells people that you're friendly and relaxed, even if you're still learning. It helps the person you're speaking with feel more comfortable too. And when people feel comfortable, they want to help. They listen more carefully. They become more patient. Marek didn't speak fast. That's important too. When we're nervous, we often try to speak quickly, thinking it will make us sound more fluent. But in reality, slowing down helps both you and the person listening. It gives your brain time to choose the right words. It also helps your pronunciation. Slow and clear is better than fast and confusing. So here's something you can try. The next time you're practicing English, focus on speaking slowly, clearly, and with a smile. Use simple sentences like Marek did. Practice in front of a mirror, with a friend, or even by recording yourself. You'll be surprised at how much more confident you sound when you stop worrying about sounding perfect. Let me also remind you that real-life English is not like a test. Nobody is standing there with a red pen correcting your mistakes. In fact, most native speakers won't even notice small grammar errors if you're communicating clearly. They're focused on the message, not the form. And that's the goal: to be understood, to connect, to get what you need and enjoy your experience. Marek's story teaches us that fluency doesn't come from perfect sentences. It comes from using English in everyday moments. It comes from saying, "Hello, I want one taco," and feeling proud when you receive it. Every time you use English, you build a little more fluency. And little by little, it grows into something strong and natural. So if you ever feel nervous about speaking English, remember Marek standing at that food truck in Los Angeles. He didn't have perfect grammar, his accent was heavy, but he spoke, he smiled, he ordered, and he succeeded. You can too. Just take one step at a time, speak from the heart, and let practice guide you forward. Let's talk about something that many of us have experienced during our travels: asking for directions. Whether you're walking through the cobblestone streets of Paris, navigating the busy avenues of New York, or exploring the historical sites in London, you're likely to need to ask for help at some point. but I know that for many learners, asking for directions can be a little intimidating. You might be worried about making mistakes or not being understood. But here's the thing. Asking for directions is a skill you can easily improve with a little practice. And once you do, it can make your entire travel experience so much smoother. So let's break it down and start with some essential phrases you'll need when you're asking for directions on the street. These are phrases that you can use in almost any situation, no matter where you are in the world. Let's start with a simple but important one. Excuse me, how do I get to? This is one of the most useful phrases you'll ever need when you're lost or unsure of the way. You can use it in any city, whether you're in Tokyo, Buenos Aires, or Berlin. You can finish this sentence with the place you're trying to find, like, excuse me, how do I get to the train station? Or, excuse me, how do I get to the museum? You'll notice that when you say, excuse me, you're already being polite, and the person you're asking will be more likely to help you. Next, let's practice asking if it's far. If someone gives you directions and you're not sure how far the place is, you can simply ask, is it far? This short question can help clarify whether you need to walk for 10 minutes, 30 minutes, or if you should consider taking a bus or taxi. It's a quick, simple way to make sure you're on the right track. Another important phrase is, can you show me on the map? This one is especially useful if you have a map with you, or if you're using a map app on your phone. If someone gives you directions, you can always ask them to show you exactly where to go by saying this. It's a way of making sure that you're both on the same page and that you fully understand the route you need to take. Now, let's put these together into a short conversation example. Imagine you're walking around London, trying to find a famous landmark like Big Ben. You approach a local and say, excuse me, how do I get to Big Ben? The person might explain the directions to you, and you can then ask, is it far? They might reply, no, it's only about 10 minutes on foot. You can follow up with, can you show me on the map? If you're unsure about the exact location. You can also use excuse me to start any question. Let's say you're in a new city and you want to know where the nearest grocery store is. You can walk up to someone and ask, excuse me, how do I get to the nearest grocery store? Or, excuse me, is there a grocery store nearby? You can also ask about other services or locations. Excuse me, where is the bus stop? Or, excuse me, can you tell me where the nearest pharmacy is? Now I want you to focus on practicing these phrases out loud. This is something I encourage all my listeners to do. Saying the words out loud helps you get used to the rhythm and pronunciation of English. It builds your confidence, and you'll be amazed at how much easier it is when you actually need to use them in real situations. Let's practice a few more variations together. Imagine you're in a city center and you need to ask for directions to a park. You could say, excuse me, how do I get to the park? Or if you're a little confused and want to confirm the directions, you could say, excuse me, I'm not sure if I understand. Can you show me on the map? This is a nice way to politely ask for clarification if you don't quite understand the directions. Another useful phrase is, I'm lost. Can you help me? If you ever find yourself in a situation where you feel completely disoriented, this is a helpful phrase to use. Even if you don't know exactly where you are, you can use this expression to let people know you need help. For example, you might say, excuse me, I'm lost. Can you help me find the train station? People will usually appreciate that you are trying to communicate in their language and will be more than willing to assist. One more important thing to remember is to always be polite. Saying please and thank you goes a long way, especially in a foreign country. For example, you can say, excuse me, can you tell me where the nearest subway station is, please? Or thank you for your help. Politeness is key to making the interaction more pleasant for both you and the person you're speaking to. Now let's take a moment to practice asking for directions in different scenarios. Let's imagine you're in a foreign city and you need to ask for directions to the train station. You could say, excuse me, how do I get to the train station? Or, excuse me, where is the nearest train station? Depending on how much you understand, you might need to ask again, or you might feel comfortable walking away and following the directions you were given. It's important to remember that people generally want to help you, so don't hesitate to ask, even if you're not 100% sure of what they're saying. Here's another example. Let's say you're in a bustling city and you're trying to find a restaurant. You could say, excuse me, can you tell me where the nearest restaurant is? Or, excuse me, is there a good restaurant around here? Asking for recommendations can also be a great way to interact with locals and learn about their favorite spots. Before we wrap up this section, I want you to try these phrases out loud. Start with, Excuse me, how do I get to? And finish the sentence with a location that you might need to find. You can try different places each time, like a train station, restaurant, or hotel. Keep practicing until it feels natural. And remember, don't stress about getting everything perfect. The goal is to be understood and to ask for help when you need it. If you repeat these phrases enough, you'll begin to feel more comfortable using them in real life. The more you practice speaking out loud, the easier it will be when you're out in the world, asking for directions. And trust me, the more confident you get in asking for directions, the more confident you'll feel in using English in other situations as well. So, give it a try, practice these phrases, and soon enough you'll be navigating new cities with ease. Let me tell you a story about Sophia, a woman from Lisbon who was traveling to Edinburgh for the first time. Like many of us, she had been learning English for a while, but when it came to actually speaking the language in a real-life situation, she felt nervous. It's something that most learners of a second language can relate to, the fear of making mistakes, of not being understood, or of feeling embarrassed. Sophia had done well in her English classes, but now she was in a foreign city, and suddenly, all that knowledge didn't seem so certain. It was a beautiful afternoon in Edinburgh, and Sophia had been walking around the city, exploring its charming streets. She had a map in her hand, but the city was a little tricky to navigate, and soon she realized she wasn't exactly sure which direction to take. She tried to follow the signs, but it wasn't enough. She needed help. Sophia paused, took a deep breath, and told herself that she could do this. She had practiced English for months, and now was the moment to put her skills to the test. With her heart racing a little, she approached a local woman who was walking her dog. "Excuse me?" Sophia started, her voice trembling slightly. "Can you help me? How do I get to the castle?" The woman smiled and nodded, asking Sophia if she was familiar with the area. Sophia didn't understand every word at first, but she recognized the key phrases. "It's just around the corner, and then straight ahead," the woman said, pointing in the direction. Sophia nodded, thanked her, and walked away, feeling a sense of relief. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. What I love about this story is that it shows how important confidence is when using a second language, especially in a situation like this. Sophia could have been too afraid to ask for help, or she could have stayed lost out of fear of making a mistake. But instead, she stepped out of her comfort zone, tried her best, and was able to get the help she needed. And that's what I want to emphasize here: the power of just trying. Sophia's experience is a perfect example of how confidence can make all the difference in learning a new language. She wasn't speaking perfectly, but she was speaking clearly enough for the woman to understand her. And that's what matters. When we try to speak the language, even if we feel nervous or unsure, we open ourselves up to the chance of being understood and connecting with others. You see, when you're learning a language, it's easy to focus on perfection. You might worry about pronunciation or grammar, or maybe you're afraid of making mistakes. But let me tell you something. The most important thing is communicating. When you're traveling or interacting with people from different cultures, the goal is to make yourself understood. And trust me, people appreciate when you make the effort to speak their language, even if you're not flawless. In Sophia's case, she could have opted for the easier route and kept walking, hoping to find her way. But she chose to engage, to communicate, and to ask for directions. And because of that, she was able to find the castle and continue her journey with a little more confidence. Not only that, but by stepping out of her comfort zone, she also gained a valuable lesson in language learning. It's okay to make mistakes as long as you keep trying. What about you? Have you ever felt like Sophia? Maybe you've been nervous to ask for help in English, or perhaps you've held back from speaking because you're worried about making a mistake. I want to encourage you to think about the times when you've succeeded despite feeling unsure. Whether it was ordering food at a restaurant or asking for directions on the street, you've probably found that people are generally understanding and patient when you're making an effort to communicate. That's the beauty of language. It's about connection. And the more you practice speaking, the easier it becomes to make those connections. Every time you try, you build your confidence, and with that confidence comes progress. It's a cycle. The more you speak, the more confident you become, and the more confident you become, the more you'll speak. Sophia's story is a great reminder that language learning is not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about making mistakes and learning from them. It's about pushing through the discomfort and feeling the joy of communication. I'm sure that after that encounter, Sophia felt more comfortable using English in other situations, because she had taken that first step and realized that the world wouldn't end if she made a mistake. In fact, the world was ready to help her and understand her, just as it will be ready to help you when you're out there speaking English. So, let's take a moment and reflect. When you're faced with a situation where you have to speak English, what holds you back? Is it the fear of making mistakes? Is it the worry of not being understood? I want you to know that you're not alone in feeling this way. We all have those moments of hesitation, but the key is to push past them. It's okay to be nervous. It's okay to feel uncertain, but don't let that stop you from trying. The next time you find yourself in a situation like Sophia's, where you need to ask for directions, just remember, the effort is what counts. Take a deep breath, smile, and speak clearly. Even if you don't say everything perfectly, the person you're talking to will appreciate your attempt to communicate, and that's what will build your confidence and help you continue improving your English. Remember, language learning is a journey, and every step you take, no matter how small, is progress. Just like Sophia, you'll find that the more you try, the more you'll grow. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep going. And with every conversation, with every sentence you speak, you'll get closer to achieving the fluency you're aiming for. So the next time you're in a situation where you need to speak English, take a deep breath and go for it. Like Sophia, you might feel nervous at first, but I promise you, the more you try, the more confident you'll become. Keep practicing and remember, your efforts are what make the difference. Let's talk about something that many of us have faced during our travels. Navigating public transportation in a foreign country. It can be stressful, right? You're in a new place, and you need to figure out how to get from one point to another. Whether it's a train, a bus, or the metro, knowing the right phrases in English can make a huge difference. Public transport is one of those essential aspects of travel where communication is key. You might be in a country where English isn't the first language, but many transportation staff and fellow travelers can understand basic English. And that's exactly what we're going to focus on today. Practical phrases that will help you get around and make your travel experience smoother, no matter where you are in the world. First, let's start with one of the most important questions. Where can I buy a ticket? This phrase is a lifesaver when you arrive at a new station and don't know where to go to purchase your fare. You could be in a train station, a bus terminal, or even a metro stop, and this simple question will always get you the information you need. You might hear a local give you directions or point you toward the ticket counter or machine. No matter what, having this question ready will save you time and help you feel more confident. Another essential phrase is, does this bus go downtown? Or, does this train go to the city center? When you're in an unfamiliar city, it's important to know if the transportation you're taking is going to the right destination. Public transport systems in big cities can be complicated, so asking whether a bus, tram, or train goes to your destination is crucial. And like, where can I buy a ticket? This phrase works in many countries. Whether you're in London, New York, Paris, or Tokyo, these words will help you get where you need to go. Let's talk a little more about buses and how you can use simple English phrases to navigate them. A very useful question when riding a bus is, how many stops to the station? It's a great phrase to use when you're not familiar with the route. If you're not sure when to get off, you can ask the bus driver or another passenger this question. It's simple and direct, and it shows that you're trying to make an effort in English. Usually, people will be happy to help, and you'll get the information you need. Just be sure to listen carefully to their response, as public transport systems vary, and some cities have a lot of stops on certain routes. Now, let me share a quick story. A while ago, I was traveling in a European city, and I needed to take a tram to get to a museum. The tram was a bit crowded, and I wasn't sure if it was going in the right direction. So, I decided to ask a local person, does this tram go to the museum district? The person didn't speak perfect English, but they understood me right away. They smiled, nodded, and pointed me toward the front of the tram where the route map was displayed. It was so simple, and it made me feel more confident in navigating the system. The best part? The person was so friendly and helpful, and they appreciated that I was trying to speak their language. I know a lot of people feel nervous about using English in situations like this. Maybe you're worried that you'll make a mistake or that the person you're asking won't understand you. But remember, the goal is communication, not perfection. Even if you don't get the exact words right, the person will appreciate that you're trying, and more often than not, they'll do their best to help you. One more phrase that's important when traveling on public transportation is this the right platform for the train to the airport? If you're trying to catch a train or a bus to the airport, you'll want to make sure you're on the right platform or at the right stop. This phrase works well in train stations, especially those with multiple platforms. It's simple, and it'll quickly help you find the right location. As we talk about public transport, one thing I want you to remember is that the beauty of these phrases is their universality. English is used widely in major cities and transport hubs around the world. Even if you're traveling to a country where English isn't the main language, you'll find that many people involved in public transport, whether it's ticket sellers, bus drivers, or station attendants, will have at least some understanding of basic English. This is why knowing a few key phrases can really make your travel experience easier. Of course, it's not just about asking for directions or information. Sometimes you may need to clarify something, or you may not understand the answer right away. So here's a phrase you can use. Sorry, can you repeat that? It's a polite way to ask someone to speak slower or repeat themselves if you didn't catch everything. Don't be afraid to ask people to slow down, especially in busy transport areas where things can get hectic. They'll usually be more than happy to accommodate you. Let's break down these phrases a bit more so you can practice. Imagine you're at a train station in London, trying to figure out how to get to your hotel. You walk up to the counter and ask, "Where can I buy a ticket?" The attendant points you toward the machine, and you thank them. As you're trying to buy the ticket, you're unsure which route to take. You ask, "Does this train go to the airport?" The person nods, and you feel a bit more comfortable. But wait, when you're sitting on the train, you're unsure when to get off. You ask, "How many stops to the airport?" And with that simple question, you're on your way to the right destination. In all of these situations, the key is to remain calm, speak clearly, and keep things simple. If you're unsure about how to say something, don't stress. Just say what you can, and the people around you will usually appreciate the effort. Public transport can feel overwhelming, but knowing these basic phrases will help you navigate almost any city in the world. And remember, practice makes perfect. The more you use these phrases, the more comfortable you'll become using them in real-life situations. So, to recap, here are some of the key phrases you'll need for public transportation. Where can I buy a ticket? Does this bus go downtown? How many stops to the station? Is this the right platform for the train to the airport? Sorry, can you repeat that? These are simple but effective phrases that will help you move around with confidence. Keep them in mind, practice them regularly, and you'll find that using public transportation in English becomes second nature. And remember, even if you don't speak perfectly, the goal is communication, and that's what really matters. So go ahead, practice these phrases, and next time you're on public transport, you'll be ready. Thomas had always dreamed of visiting Canada. Coming from Munich, he was used to the efficient and well-organized transport system in his home city, where everything was in German and relatively easy to understand. But when he landed in Toronto, he was faced with a new challenge: navigating the city's public transportation system, especially the bus network, in English. It wasn't just the language barrier he had to worry about. It was also the fact that he wasn't familiar with how buses operated in Toronto. After a long flight, Thomas made his way to the bus terminal, hoping to get to his hotel. The signs were in English, but that didn't make everything easier. He was used to signs in German, and now he was faced with a system that had different routes, destinations, and schedules. His first challenge came when he tried to find the right bus to take him to the downtown area. The bus stop had a sign with several routes listed, but Thomas didn't know which one to choose. He asked a local, "Excuse me, which bus goes downtown?" The woman at the bus stop smiled at him and gave him a brief answer. But Thomas didn't understand everything she said. He caught a few words: Route 52, straight to the city center, and you can't miss it. But the rest of her response was unclear. Still, he felt confident enough to take a chance. He decided to board the bus that she had mentioned, hoping it was the right one. As the bus started moving, Thomas felt a bit uncertain. He wasn't entirely sure if he had understood the woman's instructions correctly. He couldn't remember exactly what route she had referred to, and he hadn't caught every word. But he looked around and saw that other passengers seemed calm, so he decided to pay attention to the stops and signs on the bus. The next challenge came when the bus stopped at a major intersection. A voice over the speaker announced, "Next stop, Queen Street." Thomas wasn't sure exactly where that was, but he had a map on his phone, and he quickly checked it. It was one of the major streets in the city, so he assumed it was on the right route. At the next stop, the bus driver announced, "University Avenue," and that was another stop that was marked on his map. Even though Thomas didn't understand every single word the bus driver said, he was able to figure out the general route based on the signs and the information he had. It was at that moment that he realized something important. Even though he hadn't understood everything perfectly, he had managed to follow along by using the context of the situation. He had been practicing active listening. Instead of focusing on every word, he focused on the main points, the key words and phrases that helped him piece together what was happening. Thomas's story is a great example of how listening actively can help you navigate even in unfamiliar situations. It's easy to get caught up in trying to understand every single word or phrase when you're learning a new language, especially when you're in a stressful situation, like trying to figure out public transportation in a new city. But as Thomas learned, the key isn't necessarily in understanding everything perfectly. It's in getting the general idea and using context to fill in the gaps. Let's think about how you can apply this in your own travels. Imagine you're in a new city and you're trying to get information from someone. You might not understand every word they say, but you can still use active listening to pick up the important details. When you're on a bus, train, or in a conversation with a local, try to focus on the words you understand. Listen for the key points, like the destination, direction, or stop name. If you don't catch every word, don't worry. The important thing is to stay calm, stay focused on the context, and trust yourself to figure it out. You might also notice that in Thomas's story, he was able to make sense of the situation because he was paying attention to the signs and announcements around him. This is another great tip for active listening. Use all the available resources. In a bus or train station, there are often signs, maps, and announcements that can help you piece together the information. If you're unsure, don't hesitate to ask for help, just like Thomas did. Even if you don't understand everything someone says, you'll likely pick up enough to know if you're on the right track. Active listening is an important skill when it comes to language learning. It helps you become more comfortable in real-life situations, like traveling, without needing to understand everything perfectly. It's all about getting the gist of the conversation and trusting yourself to figure it out from there. And over time, the more you practice active listening, the easier it will become. You'll start to understand more, even if you're not familiar with every word or phrase. In Thomas's case, he also relied on his intuition. When he wasn't sure about the next stop, he checked his map, compared it with the announcements, and confirmed that he was on the right bus. This is another tip for language learners. Use what you already know to help you make sense of new information. Don't be afraid to use technology like a map app or translation tool to support your understanding. And remember, even if you're not perfect, your goal is to communicate effectively, and you're on the right path by focusing on the essentials. So next time you're traveling and you don't understand everything someone says, try to remember Thomas's experience. Focus on the key points, use context to fill in the gaps, and trust yourself to understand the situation. Active listening isn't about understanding every word. It's about understanding the overall message and using the resources around you to make sense of it. In Thomas's case, by staying calm and listening actively, he was able to navigate Toronto's bus system without any major problems, even though he didn't speak perfect English. And with practice, you can do the same in any city you visit. The more you practice, the more comfortable and confident you'll become. Dealing with emergencies while traveling can be a stressful experience, and it's something none of us hope to encounter. However, when it happens, being able to communicate effectively can make all the difference. Whether it's a medical issue, a lost passport, or something more urgent, knowing the right phrases in English can help you get the assistance you need quickly. It's not about being fluent in the language. It's about knowing a few key phrases that will allow you to ask for help when you need it the most. In this segment, I'll walk you through some essential emergency phrases that will help you stay safe and calm. Let's imagine you're traveling in a city you've never been to before. You're walking down the street when you suddenly witness an accident. You feel panic rise in your chest as you realize someone is injured. You need help immediately, but you're not sure how to explain the situation in English. You could feel overwhelmed, but if you know the right phrases, you can get the help you need fast. The first thing to remember is that in an emergency, clarity is more important than perfection. You don't need to worry about grammar or fluency, just focus on the main message. One of the most important phrases to know is, "I need help." This simple sentence can be used in almost any situation. If you're lost, if someone is hurt, or if you just don't know what to do, saying, "I need help," immediately communicates your need for assistance. You can also add more details to help clarify the situation, such as, "I need help, I'm lost," or "I need help, someone is injured." but the most essential part is the phrase, "I need help," which is direct and to the point. If you're ever in doubt, this is your go-to phrase. Another crucial phrase in emergencies is, "Call the police." If you're in a situation where you need law enforcement assistance, whether it's an accident, theft, or a more serious issue, this phrase will help you get the right help. It's clear, simple, and immediate. In most English-speaking countries, people will understand exactly what you need when you say, "Call the police." If you feel unsafe or threatened, don't hesitate to say this phrase and make sure the person you're speaking to understands that you need urgent help. You can also add, "Please call the police" for extra politeness, but "call the police" alone is enough. Now let's say you're feeling unwell or you witness someone having a medical emergency. In this case, the phrase, "Is there a hospital nearby?" will be incredibly useful. Hospitals are usually marked clearly in most cities, but you might need to ask for directions, especially if you're in an unfamiliar area. By asking if there's a hospital nearby, you're making sure you can get medical help as soon as possible. If you're in need of urgent care, it's also a good idea to say, "I need a doctor," or "I need medical assistance," to make it clear that you need attention right away. Again, don't worry about sounding perfect, just be clear about what you need. In addition to these basic phrases, there are a few other useful ones to know in case of specific situations. For example, if you're involved in a car accident, you might need to say, "I need an ambulance." Or if you're in a dangerous area, "I feel unsafe." If you're with someone who is hurt and you need to tell someone exactly what happened, you can say, "He, she is hurt," followed by where the injury is. For instance, "He is bleeding from his arm," or "She has broken her leg." Providing clear details will help others understand the urgency of the situation and assist you more effectively. When you're traveling, you also need to be aware of local emergency numbers. In many countries, the emergency number for police or fire services is 911 or 112, but it can vary depending on where you are. It's always a good idea to research the local emergency number before your trip and make sure you have it saved on your phone or written down somewhere easily accessible. This will save you valuable time if you ever need it. Another important thing to remember is that many people around the world, even if they don't speak English fluently, will still understand these basic emergency phrases. This is because emergencies are universal, and the need for help is something we all understand. When you communicate directly and simply, you give yourself the best chance to get assistance quickly, even if there's a language barrier. I want to emphasize again that these phrases are for safety. They are meant to help you in situations where every second counts. So before you travel, it's a good idea to practice these phrases until you feel comfortable saying them. You don't need to be fluent in English, but having these key phrases at your disposal can make all the difference. In an emergency, you may not have time to think about grammar or vocabulary, but if you know these key expressions, you can get the help you need without delay. Let's take a moment to think about how you can practice these emergency phrases. One effective way is to repeat them out loud when you're practicing your English. It's one thing to read the phrases, but saying them out loud will help you get used to the pronunciation and rhythm of the language. You can also practice in different situations. Imagine you're lost in a city or you've witnessed an accident. Try to picture how you would use these phrases. By practicing in a mental simulation, you'll feel more confident when it comes to using them in real-life situations. Also, don't forget that when you're in an emergency, it's important to stay calm. I know it can be difficult to keep your composure when things are urgent, but try to focus on speaking clearly. It's much more important to be understood than to speak perfectly. The goal is to communicate your needs and get the help you need. People will appreciate your clarity and your ability to stay calm in a stressful situation. So, to recap, here are the key phrases to remember in an emergency. "I need help," "Call the police," "Is there a hospital nearby?" and "I need a doctor." Make sure to practice these phrases regularly so that you're ready in case you need them. And don't forget to research local emergency numbers for the places you're visiting. By knowing these simple phrases and practicing them, you'll be much better equipped to handle emergencies no matter where you are in the world. Communication is the key to getting the help you need, and with a little preparation, you'll be ready to handle any situation that comes your way. Amina from Casablanca was excited about her trip to London. She had heard so much about the city's historic landmarks, the busy streets, and, of course, the parks where locals and tourists alike go to relax. It was a sunny afternoon when she decided to take a stroll through Hyde Park. The weather was perfect for walking, and Amina felt a sense of peace as she explored the park. She was enjoying the fresh air, the beauty of the green space, and the occasional chirp of birds in the trees. Little did she know this peaceful moment was about to turn into a stressful situation. As Amina sat on a bench near the Serpentine, taking in the scenery, she placed her bag beside her. It wasn't until later when she stood up to leave that she realized something was wrong. Her bag was missing. She quickly turned around and looked at the bench. No bag. Panic started to set in as she realized her wallet, phone, and passport were all in the bag. For a moment, she felt completely lost, unsure of what to do. She walked around the area, retracing her steps, hoping to find it lying on the ground, but it was nowhere to be seen. The fear and frustration started to build up, but Amina knew she had to act quickly. In that moment, Amina remembered something that had helped her throughout her travels: the importance of staying calm and speaking clearly. She had been practicing English for years, but even with that, it wasn't always easy to speak in stressful situations. But she knew that in a foreign country, speaking calmly and clearly was her best chance of getting help. So, instead of panicking, she took a deep breath and started to think about what to do next. The first thing Amina did was approach a nearby park employee who was walking along the path. She smiled at him, trying to ease her nerves, and said, "Excuse me, I've lost my bag. Can you help me, please?" She felt nervous at first, but the simplicity of the phrase made it easy for her to say. "Excuse me" is one of those phrases that works in almost any situation. It's polite and immediately lets the other person know that you're asking for help. By starting with a friendly greeting and a simple request, Amina was able to open the conversation without feeling overwhelmed. The park employee listened carefully to her and nodded. Amina explained, "My bag is missing. It was here on the bench, and now it's gone. I don't know where it is." She used clear, direct language, even though she was stressed. "Can you please help me?" she repeated, making sure to emphasize that she needed assistance. Amina had heard from others that in moments like these, people often forget the importance of being clear and straightforward. It wasn't the time to be worried about making the sentence perfect. What mattered was getting the message across. The employee immediately responded, "Let's go to the Lost and Found office. Maybe someone turned it in." As they walked together to the Lost and Found, Amina couldn't help but feel a little relieved. The staff member's calm demeanor reassured her, and the fact that she had spoken clearly made it easier for him to understand the situation. This exchange is a perfect example of how speaking clearly and asking for help in simple terms can make a huge difference. When they reached the Lost and Found office, Amina had to explain the situation again. "I lost my bag in the park. It had my phone, wallet, and passport inside. I don't know where it went." The staff member at the office asked her a few more questions, such as the color and type of the bag, and then informed her that someone had indeed turned it in. It turned out that another visitor in the park had found the bag and brought it to the Lost and Found. Amina felt a wave of relief wash over her. Thanks to the staff's help and her clear communication, her bag was returned to her, and everything inside was intact. This story of Amina highlights a crucial point that I want to emphasize. In stressful situations, staying calm and speaking clearly can make a world of difference. Amina could have panicked and struggled to find the right words, but instead she focused on expressing her needs simply and directly. By using clear phrases like "excuse me," "can you help me," and "I've lost my bag," she was able to effectively communicate the situation and get the help she needed. It's important to remember that no matter where you are, people are usually more than willing to help, especially when they understand what you need. And in situations like Amina's, where stress and anxiety can take over, simplicity is key. You don't need to worry about being perfect or speaking flawless English. What's more important is being understood and getting help as quickly as possible. Now, let's think about how we can apply this lesson to our own travels. Imagine you're in a similar situation. Maybe you're in a foreign city and you've lost your wallet or you can't find your way back to your hotel. What would you do? How would you ask for help? Take a moment to think about the phrases you would use. The good news is that many of the phrases Amina used in this story can work for you too. "Excuse me, can you help me?" "I've lost my bag," or "I need assistance," are all simple, effective ways to ask for help. And remember, you don't need to be fluent or perfect in your English. The key is to remain calm, speak clearly, and make sure the person you're speaking to understands your request. By practicing these simple phrases, you can feel more confident in situations where you need help. Whether it's in a park, on the street, or even at the airport, being able to communicate your needs will give you the confidence to handle unexpected challenges during your travels. And who knows, just like Amina, you might find that people are often more willing to help than you expect. So the next time you travel, keep these phrases in mind and remember to stay calm and clear when you need assistance. It could make all the difference in your experience. When it comes to preparing for a trip, especially one where you'll be using English, it's not just about learning phrases. It's about making those phrases part of your everyday life, so that when the time comes to use them, they feel natural. Many people feel nervous about speaking a foreign language in public, and I completely understand that. It's one thing to study English in a classroom or at home, but it's another to actually use it in real-life situations, especially when you're in a new country, surrounded by people speaking quickly and with different accents. But the good news is, there are many ways to practice and build your confidence before you even board the plane. First and foremost, the key to feeling confident with English while traveling is consistent practice. It's not about perfection, but about being familiar and comfortable with the language in different situations. Let's dive into some practical tips that can help you feel more prepared for those moments when you'll need to speak English abroad. One of the best ways to practice is by speaking with others. If you have friends who are also learning English, try to have conversations with them in English. Even if it's just a few sentences a day, you'll start to feel more comfortable using the language. You don't have to talk for hours at a time. Just a few minutes here and there will help. When you're talking with someone, try to use the phrases you think you'll need on your trip. For example, if you're planning to visit a restaurant, you could practice ordering food or asking for the menu. If you're traveling by train or bus, practice asking for directions or how to buy a ticket. The more you use these phrases, the easier they'll come when you need them in real life. Another great way to practice is by watching videos of real-life situations where people are speaking English. This is an excellent way to hear how native speakers use the language in natural settings, like at the airport, in a restaurant, or when asking for directions. You can find videos on YouTube, in language learning apps, or on websites that simulate travel situations. Watch how the people in the video ask for help or give directions. Pay attention to the words they use, the tone of their voice, and how they keep the conversation simple and clear. Try to repeat what they say, imitating the way they speak. This will not only help you with pronunciation, but also with understanding the flow of conversation. It's a great way to practice speaking without any pressure. For those of you who enjoy learning with technology, there are plenty of apps that can help you prepare for your trip by simulating real-life travel situations. Apps like Duolingo, Babbel, and Memrise offer travel-specific lessons that cover everything from asking for directions to ordering food at a restaurant. Many of these apps also include audio, so you can hear how the phrases should sound when spoken. They often have quizzes and exercises that test your ability to use the phrases correctly, which can be a fun way to track your progress. Additionally, there are apps that allow you to practice speaking with others, which can be incredibly helpful if you're too shy to practice with friends, or if you don't have many English-speaking people around you. Platforms like HelloTalk and Tandem connect you with native speakers who are learning your language, so you can practice speaking English and, in turn, help them practice your native language. It's a great way to make new friends and get real-time feedback on your language skills. Now, let's talk about repetition. It may sound simple, but repeating phrases in English is one of the best ways to make them stick. Don't be afraid to repeat phrases out loud, even when you're by yourself. Whether you're at home, on a walk, or even in your car, saying the phrases out loud will help reinforce the words and sentences in your mind. Try to repeat them in different contexts. For instance, if you're practicing the phrase, "How much is a ticket?" say it a few times while imagining you're at the train station, then say it again while imagining you're at the airport. This will help you become more flexible with the language and make it easier to use when the situation arises. You can also use flashcards to help you practice. Write down the phrases you want to learn on one side of the card and the translation or explanation on the other. There are apps that do this digitally, like Anki or Quizlet, which allow you to create your own flashcards and review them at any time. The key is consistency. Try to review your flashcards for a few minutes every day. This way, you'll gradually build up a mental bank of useful phrases and vocabulary. Another great way to prepare is by setting small, achievable goals each day. For example, you could set a goal to learn 5 new phrases each week. It doesn't matter if they're short or long phrases, as long as they're useful for your travels. Focus on the most common situations you'll encounter, like ordering food, asking for directions, or checking into a hotel. Once you've learned a few phrases, practice using them in conversation, either with a language partner or even just by speaking them to yourself. It's about getting comfortable with the language and building your confidence, one phrase at a time. Finally, Don't underestimate the power of listening. Listening to English daily, even in small doses, will help you familiarize yourself with the language and get used to the sounds and rhythm of the language. You can listen to podcasts, watch movies or TV shows, or even just listen to English language radio stations online. Try to listen actively. This means paying attention to the words and phrases that you recognize, but also to the ones you don't understand. By doing this, you'll start to expand your vocabulary and get a better sense of how English is spoken in different contexts. It's also important to remember that learning a language, especially when preparing for a trip, doesn't have to be overwhelming. Break it down into small steps and focus on one thing at a time. Practice for just 15 to 20 minutes a day, and soon enough you'll feel more prepared and confident in using English while traveling. The goal isn't to become fluent overnight, but rather to gain the confidence to use the language effectively in real-world situations. Incorporating English into your daily life, whether through speaking with friends, watching videos, or using apps, is a great way to make sure you're ready when it's time to travel. The more you practice, the more comfortable you'll feel, and before you know it, you'll be able to handle any situation that comes your way. As we come to the end of this episode, I want to take a moment to reflect on the journey we've shared together. Learning English for travel can sometimes feel like a big task, but as we've seen today, it's really all about making small steps and being consistent. It's not about speaking perfectly. It's about getting comfortable and confident enough to use the language in everyday situations. You don't need to know every word or understand every accent. What matters most is being clear, staying calm, and practicing as much as you can. Now, I'd like to encourage you to think about your own experiences. Have you ever traveled and felt unsure about how to communicate in English? Maybe you found yourself in a situation where you didn't know the right words to say or struggled with understanding a question. I want you to reflect on that moment for a moment. What could have made it easier for you? What phrases do you wish you knew? Take a few minutes today to choose 2 or 3 phrases that you feel will be the most useful for your travels. These can be anything from asking for directions, ordering food, or even simple phrases like, "How much is this?" or "Where is the nearest bus stop?" Write them down, repeat them out loud, and get comfortable using them in different scenarios. It might feel a bit awkward at first, but that's perfectly normal. The more you practice, the more natural it will feel. And remember, you don't need to worry about being perfect. Clarity and confidence are what matter most when you're communicating in English during your travels. If you're listening right now and you're thinking, "I'm not sure where to start," don't worry. You're already on the right track just by listening to this episode. You've already taken a step towards improving your English for your next trip. I encourage you to keep going, to keep practicing, and to keep using English every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. Every bit of practice counts. I want to thank you for joining me on this journey today. I hope you feel more prepared and more confident about using English in real-world travel situations. Whether you're planning a trip soon or just practicing for the future, these simple steps will help you feel more at ease when you encounter English speakers during your travels. If you found this episode helpful, I'd love for you to share it with friends or family who may also be preparing for a trip. The more you practice together, the more fun it can be. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on future episodes filled with more helpful tips and stories to support your English learning journey. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to having you back next time. Happy travels, and keep practicing your English every day. In this episode of the English Talk community, Julia shares practical English phrases for travelers, covering essential expressions you can use at airports, hotels, restaurants, and when navigating public transportation. Whether you're asking for directions, ordering food, or dealing with emergencies, these simple and clear phrases will help you communicate with confidence during your travels. Julia also discusses real-life examples from travelers like Elena, Luca, and Marek, showing how easy it can be to use English even when you're nervous or facing challenging situations. You'll learn key expressions such as, "Where is the check-in counter?" "Can I see the menu?" and "I need help," all designed to make your travel experience smoother and less stressful. This episode is packed with practical tips, encouragement, and relatable stories that will help you feel more prepared for your next international adventure. Whether you're a beginner or an intermediate learner, you'll gain valuable skills to improve your English for travel. Don't forget to subscribe for more episodes filled with essential language tips and practice your English with us. Happy travels. Keywords: English for travel, travel English phrases, essential English phrases, learning English for travel, English for airports, English for hotels, English for restaurants, public transportation in English, English for emergencies, travel English tips, English language practice, improve English for travel.